Welcome to The Explainer. So, is chanting for death at a huge music festival just free speech? And what in the world does that have to do with Greta Thunberg getting arrested? Well, today we're diving into one commentator's really provocative take that connects these two events, arguing they expose a massive double standard in UK law enforcement.
All right, here's the game plan. First, we'll look at the whole hate speech debate that got kicked off at Glastonbury. Then, we'll see how that's used to build this argument for a major double standard in policing. From there, we'll jump straight to Greta Thunberg's arrest and the pretty sharp critique of her activism. And finally, we'll see how the commentator pulls it all together with one very powerful accusation.
So our story kicks off at, one of the biggest music festivals on the planet, Glastonbury. But this isn't about the bands. No, it's all about a single chant from the crowd and the police decision that came after. A decision that becomes the first, absolutely crucial piece of the puzzle for this entire argument.
And there it is. This police ruling is pretty much the anchor for the entire piece. The commentator, Esther Kraku, she points to this moment and basically asks, if this isn't a crime, then what on earth is? She argues that this one decision makes you question the UK's whole approach to policing speech.
So yeah, that question right there, that's the core of her challenge. She's not just asking it out of curiosity, she's using the Glastonbury incident to suggest that the line for what's considered criminal speech is, a moving target. It seems to create a ton of confusion and inconsistency. Okay, so if the police were, let's say, lenient in that case, where are they strict? This is where the argument really pivots, and it gets interesting. It contrasts that Glastonbury decision with how police apparently handle online speech to build a case for a massive double standard.
To make this contrast really hit home, the commentator tells this anecdote. 6 police officers supposedly showing up at someone's door over a meme. Now, the story is used to create this really jarring image, a huge police response for a joke online versus a pass for a public chant calling for death. It's all about questioning police priorities.
And this is basically the whole argument in a nutshell. On one side, you've got this public chant from a huge crowd, and it gets a pass. On the other side, a single person's meme online, which apparently gets a heavy-handed police response. For the commentator, the scales are just completely broken. She calls it pure hypocrisy. So it all circles back to this one critical question. What she's really demanding is a clear, consistent answer. She's suggesting that, right now, the rules seem to change depending on who is speaking and what they happen to be saying. And that perfectly sets the stage for her second big example. All right, let's switch gears to the second case study in this argument about policing. The arrest of maybe the world's most famous activist, Greta Thunberg, right in the middle of a protest in London. You see, her arrest isn't just another headline here. It's presented as the other side of the coin. If the people chanting at Glastonbury got a free pass, the commentator immediately zooms in on how the police handled this protest, and she uses it to critique everything about Thunberg, her actions, her motives, and the police response. And the source, wow, it does not hold back at all. The criticisms are incredibly sharp and personal. Thunberg is called a narcissist and privileged, and her protest is framed not just as a waste of police time, but as something way more serious, supporting a designated terrorist organization. The commentary then really hones in on what it frames as this fundamental shift in Thunberg's activism. The argument is that she's basically moved on from her famous signature issue, which was, of course, climate change. This sarcastic nickname, Greta, I support the latest thing, Thunberg, is the commentator's key weapon here. It's meant to paint her activism as shallow, maybe even opportunistic, to suggest that her support for the pro-Palestine movement isn't from some deep conviction, but is more about just chasing the latest trend. So the argument, as you can see it laid out here, is pretty simple. First, her whole world was climate. Now, all of a sudden, it's the pro-Palestine movement. By framing it as this abrupt switch, the commentator is trying to chip away at Thunberg's credibility, suggesting she's abandoned her core mission for a totally different conflict. And boom, this is where the two stories collide. The commentator is asserting that Thunberg is openly committing a crime by supporting this group. So the implied question is pretty obvious, right? How can chanting death to the IDF be legal, but this is illegal? And that right there is presented as the final piece of evidence for that double standards claim.
So we've got a chant at a festival and an activist's arrest, two completely different events. How in the world does the commentator weave them into one single, coherent message? Let's get to her final take.
And it all comes down to this one idea, a double standard.
The argument is that there's one set of rules for the Glastonbury chanters and a totally different, much harsher set of rules for people posting memes online or activists like Greta Thunberg, and it all seems to depend on the ideology they're expressing.
Really, her entire argument boils down to this one powerful statement. The hypocrisy is astounding. This isn't just her summarizing her points. It's her final forceful verdict on UK law enforcement. She's painting a picture of a system that she believes is fundamentally broken and politically biased.
And that's our breakdown of this commentary. It leaves us with a question that goes way beyond the UK. When you're talking about free speech, protest, and public safety, how do you make sure the rules are applied fairly to absolutely everyone? Where do you think that line should be drawn?